Hey everyone, welcome to The Explainer. I am absolutely thrilled to be your guide today as we uncover some of America's most fascinating hidden histories. We're going to take some complex, sprawling mysteries and break them right down, going way beyond rumors to look directly at what the documented sources actually tell us. I want you to reconsider what you think you know about the physical and historical world around you. We walk down city streets, we fly in commercial airplanes, we hike in national parks, and we just kind of assume we see the whole picture. But what if we don't? What secrets are actually hiding just out of sight?
Okay, let's dive into this. We've got a pretty amazing roadmap today. First, hidden tunnels under major cities. Then, the legendary D.B. Cooper mystery. After that, we'll look at the polarizing theories around national park disappearances. And finally, the declassified reality of Area 51. Let's get started. All right, Section 1, the ground beneath us. We're grounding ourselves in the literal physical secrets buried right beneath everyday city streets. Now, what's really wild is that beneath our sidewalks, entirely different worlds were constructed. Take Los Angeles. Back in the 1920s, there were actual underground routes connecting City Hall to courthouses that bootleggers used to move liquor to speakeasies, completely out of sight. Then you've got Chicago, with literal miles of freight tunnels under the Loop, originally built just to move coal. Up in Portland, the infamous Shanghai tunnels in Old Town. Legend has it these passageways, complete with trapdoors and rusted bars, were used to abduct men for forced maritime labor. And over in Kansas City, there's Subtropolis, built right into an old limestone mine. You see, these networks were designed for efficiency, but they were very often utilized for secrecy. And that Kansas City Subtropolis I just mentioned, it is absolutely massive. We're talking over 55 million square feet. And it is still highly active today. Companies literally lease this underground space to store goods specifically because the natural limestone environment maintains a constant, naturally regulated climate of exactly 68 degrees. It's a perfect example of an entire infrastructure hiding right under our feet.
So, okay, we know what's hiding under our cities, but it really makes you wonder, what about the secrets hiding in our skies? That brings us to a historical event that honestly feels like something straight out of a movie, but it is absolutely real.
Section 2, the man who vanished. We are looking at the unsolved 1971 hijacking of Northwest Orient Airlines Flight 305 by a guy known to history only as D.B. Cooper. According to FBI composite sketches and witness recollections, the hijacker was this incredibly calm, polite man in his mid-40s. He's wearing a dark suit, a neatly pressed white shirt, and a mother-of-pearl tie pen. Mid-flight, he casually hands a flight attendant a note. When she didn't read it immediately, he leaned in and whispered that he had a bomb, opening his briefcase just enough to reveal 8 red cylinders attached to wires. His demand was absolutely staggering for the time, $200,000 in negotiable American currency. To put that into perspective, that is equivalent to well over $1 million today. And he specifically wanted it paid in 10,000 unmarked $20 bills, alongside 4 civilian parachutes. Let's track how this all builds, because the sequence of events on November 24, 1971 is incredibly bold. At 2:50 p.m., he boards the flight in Portland. Mid-flight, he makes his bomb threat. The plane basically circles to allow authorities time to scramble, gather the cash, and get the parachutes, finally landing in Seattle at 5:39 p.m. He actually releases the passengers in exchange for the ransom. Then, at 7:40 p.m., he orders the crew to take off again toward Mexico, demanding they fly low and slow. And then, somewhere in the dark, raining night, he lowers the aft staircase and just parachutes out into the unknown. And here's the real kicker. Despite meticulous physical descriptions plastered on FBI wanted posters everywhere, a case file that swelled to over 60 volumes, and a 45-year active investigation by the FBI, D.B. Cooper was never identified or captured. It remains the only completely unsolved air piracy in commercial aviation history. Which naturally leads us to a pretty fascinating question. If a man can vanish from a commercial airliner in midair, how do people vanish from the vast open wilderness? That brings us to Section 3, the people who disappear. We're going to examine the phenomenon of disappearances in national parks, specifically looking at the varying perspectives surrounding a very popular series of books. This centers around Missing 411, a project by former police officer David Politis, He actually started looking into this after noticing a pretty surprising gap. There was no central National Park Service database for missing persons. Through his research, Politis asserts that many of these cases share bizarre, unexplained circumstances that, in his view, defy logical or conventional explanation.
So we have two very different perspectives to consider here. On one side, we have Politis' assertions that these cases are highly unusual and point to something mysterious. On the flip side, we have data scientist Kyle Polich, who ran a rigorous statistical analysis on Politis' claims. Polich argues that when you look strictly at the raw data, these tragic disappearances are actually statistically normal. They're best explained by very real, non-mysterious dangers, things like sudden health crises, falling off a trail, drowning, or severe environmental exposure.
To quote Polich directly from his analysis, "I've exhausted my exploration for anything genuinely unusual." His ultimate conclusion is that, yes, the wilderness is incredibly dangerous, but the frequencies and circumstances of these tragedies fall firmly within expected parameters for accidents and exposure. It's a powerful reminder of how raw data can provide a completely different lens on what might otherwise feel like an inexplicable mystery.
All right, so we've gone from theories out in the woods to our next big topic. What happens when the secrets aren't just theories, but are highly documented, classified realities? I mean, what is the government literally hiding? Let's move to Section 4, the secrets they keep. We are stripping away the pop culture alien myths to look at the declassified reality of Area 51. Because the truth about this Nevada base is actually a fascinating story of Cold War technological supremacy. Back in 1955, the CIA and Lockheed chose this super remote salt flat near Groom Lake, which they jokingly called Paradise Ranch, to safely test the revolutionary U-2 spy plane away from prying eyes. By 1961, they were out there testing the A-12 Oxcart, an aircraft that could fly over Mach 3. And by 1981, Area 51 saw the very first flight of the F-117 stealth fighter. So the facility wasn't built for housing extraterrestrials. It was literally the ultimate testing ground for covert aviation. And the technology tested there completely changed the world. Ben Rich, the former director of Lockheed Skunk Works, called their discovery the Rosetta Stone breakthrough for stealth technology. But here is the wildest part. That breakthrough actually came from a 1962 mathematical paper written by a Russian physicist named P.Ya Ufintsev. The Soviet military totally ignored the math, but a Lockheed mathematician realized Ufintsev's equations on edge waves could perfectly calculate a plane's radar cross-section. That realization directly led to the angular design of the F-117. Essentially, Area 51 ran two parallel, incredibly high-stakes operations during the Cold War. On one hand, they were developing and testing our own experimental stealth aircraft, like the F-117 and the Tacit Blue surveillance plane. But on the other hand, they were actively exploiting covertly acquired aircraft from the Soviet Union to figure out exactly how to defeat them in the sky. For instance, look at the project codenamed Have Donut. In 1966, an Iraqi pilot actually defected to Israel with a Soviet MiG-21. 2 years later, in 1968, Israel quietly loaned that exact plane to the U.S. Air Force. They brought it straight to Area 51, slapped a fake U.S. designation on it, and secretly flew it out in the Nevada desert to evaluate its tactical capabilities. They literally used it to invent new maneuvers for U.S. pilots to beat it in combat. That is real, documented, high-stakes espionage happening right in the American desert. To wrap up today's explainer, let's take a step back and look at this entire spectrum of secrets we've covered. We started with the very tangible, physical infrastructure of hidden tunnels built for efficiency and illicit trade. We moved to the lost identity of a man who literally parachuted right out of history. We examined the deeply polarizing nature of wilderness disappearances. And finally, we looked at the massive, highly classified engineering secrets of Area 51. All of these showcase our enduring human fascination with the things that are kept just out of sight. Which leaves me with this final thought for you to ponder. Based on the incredible, documented history we've just explored, what other classified truths are currently sitting right beneath our feet or flying right over our heads at this very moment? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep questioning, keep learning, and I'll catch you next time.